weaponry was a significant factor in the differences between the minor tactics of the various nationalities. In the U.S. Army, the squad was very much a group of riflemen with light support. The M1 Garand was certainly the general issue weapon with the greatest firepower. Using .30 caliber cartridges loaded in a complete 8-round clip, it was capable of about 40 rounds per minute in the hands of a well-trained soldier. The Browning automatic rifle provided only light support. It used the same .30 cal rifle ammunition and theoretically had a higher rate of fire, but its 20-round box magazines limited it in practice to short bursts. The result was an automatic rifle which could be used in a very agile manner, from the hip on the move or even from the shoulder when standing, but during combat it was unusual for it to lay down more than 600 rounds per minute. Taking the M1 and BAR together, it's clear that the U.S. squad had good firepower with fairly even distribution throughout the unit. The German MG-34 and its MG-42 successor were genuine multi-role general-purpose machine guns. With a rate of fire of 900 and 1200 rounds per minute respectively, their main limitation was simply the amount of cartridges available to the squad. High rates of fire made fleeting targets and anti-aircraft fire practical propositions. They could fire from a bipod in the light roll and from the hip, sometimes fed from 50 or 75 round drum magazines. With 12 or more machine guns per infantry company, an effective fire screen could be maintained even if the unit was only at half strength. Veteran Allied infantrymen learned to recognize the distinctive ripping noise of these machine guns.
And most important to you, how do they sound? Well, here's their 34. Now they're 42. And here's their Schmeisser. The next time you hear that may be your first time in combat.
Compared to the veritable hail of bullets that the German machine guns could put down, the standard K98 rifle was a relatively modest contributor to the firefight. It featured the classic Mauser bolt action with a fixed 5-round magazine. After each shot, the firer had to work a bolt-like lever to eject the empty case and feed another cartridge up into the chamber, so it wasn't usually fired at a rate of much more than 10 aimed rounds per minute. Given that the German squads were usually smaller than the U.S. squads, and that the MP-40 or any other submachine guns available were essentially short-range weapons, the squad's firepower was very unevenly distributed. In terms of distribution of firepower, the British squads lay somewhere between the two extremes. The Bren gun was very accurate at normal battle ranges and weighed only slightly more than the BAR, but it had a quick-change barrel and it took 30-round box magazines. Although it was considered as one of the best light machine guns of the war, it had a rate of fire of about 500 rounds per minute, and changing magazines could slow it down further during combat. British thinking was that the Bren was the heart of the squad, around which much of the action would revolve. As early as 1937, the Small Arms Training Manual Application of Fire was stating that the light machine gun was the main fire-producing weapon, while designated snipers were the skilled shots. The other riflemen were there essentially to augment fire in an emergency or protect the Bren. Similarly, the British short magazine Lee Enfield lay somewhere between the K98 and M1 in terms of firepower and efficacy. Reloading was practiced in the shoulder, that is, with the rifle still leveled and aimed towards the target. Well-trained riflemen took pride in their rapid-aimed fire, sometimes working a well-eased bolt with the thumb and forefinger and the trigger with the middle finger. The overall result was a British rifle squad centered on the light machine gun, with considerable flexibility, but less concentrated firepower in absolute terms than either the German or U.S. equivalents. The submachine gun, or machine carbine in British official literature, was commonly issued to squad commanders. Submachine guns were ideal for enclosed spaces, trenches, street fighting, and dense vegetation. In open areas, they were not of much use. The British Sten and German MP40 were similar in that they were 9mm fully automatic weapons with 32-round box magazines. In detail, there were significant differences. The Sten was as cheap and as light as possible. The side-mounted magazine could be clumsy, but had the advantage that it was easy to use lying down. The German MP40 was a much more refined piece of work, machined to high standards, but it too was best fired in very short bursts to maximize accuracy and avoid jams. Its bottom-mounted magazine made prone firing awkward, however. Submachine guns were not standard issue to the ordinary U.S. infantry squad, but were used by specialists and special forces. The Thompson and M3 had great stopping power, but were at opposite ends of the scale in weight, quality, and expense. The elderly Thompson, dating from 1928, was superbly engineered, but heavy and costly. The M3 was cheap, simple, and never very popular. If the submachine gun's value was limited to close-quarter battle, pistols were the weapon of last resort. Many officers and senior NCOs carried them, but squad leaders had pistols only as a backup to another weapon. Semi-automatic P38 Walther or P08 Luger pistols were standard issue to German machine gunners and mortar crews, and were used essentially at point-blank range for self-defense when the main weapon was out of action. Undoubtedly, one of the best combat pistols was the US M1911, which combined excellent stopping power with the speed of semi-automatic action and a 7-round box magazine. In the British Army, each rifle company was entitled to 5 Enfield No. 2 revolvers, with a further 22 at company headquarters. Many officers also possessed private purchase alternatives. Semi-automatic 9mm Browning pistols also saw significant use by special forces. While acknowledging that its use was rare, British training literature stated that the pistol, used with cunning, initiative, and determination, was handy for close-quarter fighting in enclosed environments, such as buildings and trench networks.
Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds.